Welcome everybody to another episode of the Sports Oriented World Podcast. And for today, I'm not going to be doing the usual 60-hour format. The 60-minute. Who can live in 60 hours? Man, you live 60 hours non-stop without sleep. That's crazy. But yeah, 60-minute format is not what I'm going to use in this episode, because today I'm going to be discussing uh, something that is not as usual, but it's also going to reduce the time that I always used to do. Now today I'm going to be doing like around half an hour or so, be able to just give you something worth hearing about. And without any further ado, for those who are new for the first time, I make sure that this content is worth hearing and is worth being discussed, and be able to inspire you on growing your career in whatever you do in sports, and see you up there. And hopefully I get to hear your testimonies, and I'll be glad that through this kind of content it is something inspiring you to move along with your career in sports. But yeah, for those who are regulars from day one, thank you. I've already done the past 5 episodes, and the journey so far has been great, even though it is baby steps, but I know it's going to grow as time moves on. So thank you everybody who has been a regular both on social media, through the YouTube channel, and also through the podcast platforms. So maybe you have been downloading and you have been listening to it from time to time again. I'm really proud to hear such news from you. So thank you once again. Of course, once again, this podcast is called the Sports Oriented World Podcast. Now this podcast is all about sports news, stories that have been happening in different corners of the world, so long as it has the African touch, which of course I'm an African myself. I love doing bringing that flavor to be able to bring home, so that everybody can be related to what I've been saying. So yeah, that's it for the introduction. Otherwise, thank you once again for joining, for staying plugged from wherever you are around the world. I don't take that for granted. It's only by the grace and the love of God that has made me to do what I love doing most. And yeah, I'm your host, Solomonokukuwafua. Those are my full names. So without any further ado, today the title of this episode is called DONDA Sports and ROC Nation Sports. DONDA Sports and ROC Nation Sports. Now, if you're wondering who owns those two, is of course on DONDA Sports is Kanye West, and ROC Nation Sports is Jay-Z. Now, if you ask me again, which one has stayed longer in the sports industry, it is ROC Nation Sports. Now, just a brief background of what these two related companies are all about is basically DONDA Sports is all under the DONDA company. DONDA company is basically a company in the creative industry, which is focused on the arts, which is focused on entertainment, which is focused on social related projects and the like, and it's been run by Kanye West. Now for DONDA Sports, which is under DONDA, the company, of course the name being after his late mother, who passed on more than a decade ago, and he's using that brand name to be able to really bring him back to his days where he had a good relationship with his mother, and she helped him to be who he is today. So that's how he was able to name DONDA Sports, and also DONDA as a whole. And then for ROC Nation Sports, of course, this is a sports management division of ROC Nation, which is of course a whole big empire of its own, and it's of course run by Jay-Z. And we all know very well Jay-Z is also a sports agent, but he no longer does it on his own. He has a team of representatives that are doing that for him, which is mostly focused on contract negotiations between their clients and the teams that they play under, and of course making sure that their job is to elevate their careers on a global stage, both on and off the field. So that's what I've put down in my notes. So I'll be dwelling deeper into which clients are under these two companies, what do they do, are they established, are they upcoming, and I'll be giving you more of that. But I hope that the content I've been provided so far through the previous episodes has really got to talking, has really got to conversing, has really got to really like more of the same. So today that's what I'm going to be doing. It's all about Donda Sports and ROC Nation Sports. Now, let me start with Donda Sports, going by the alphabetical order. Now, Donda Sports was recently launched, I think as of last year, by Kanye West, and he also did that with Antonio Brown and also Justin LaBoy. Now, Donda Sports, its aim is to, according to the notes I've written down, is to provide holistic support to athletes during and beyond their sports career. So I don't want to call it a rehab center, but rather it's professional, but at the same time it's giving all round support at different corners to be able to really push their careers forward, even if they're not on the field of play. So that's what Donda is all about. And of course, Donda Sports also has a sports academy which is in California, to be specific, in the LA metropolitan area, and it's basically a private school which is targeting the K-12 students, and its purpose is to intersect faith and the innovation of the future. So it's basically mixing faith, which is Christian faith. As you all know, Kanye West is a born again Christian, or should I say and then innovation of the future. Now we all know very well the future is going to be technological. The future is going to be more of robotic and what have you. And Kanye West is trying to use that creativity of that nature and mix it with the Christian faith, and that's how he's able to start Donda Academy. And of course, Donda Sports Academy is under it because it's also going along the same vision, and that's how started that empire. And of course, under Donda Sports Academy, he has a high school men's basketball team which is called Donda Doves. So congratulations to him for starting that empire in the sporting industry, and I hope that sooner or later, if he's maybe wanting to be a sports team owner, he can go ahead. And according to reports by Antonio Brown, which he said it by himself, if you go to the online media, he said that he wants to buy the Denver Broncos. Now you can remember very well, Denver Broncos, which is an NFL franchise, doesn't have should I say an outright runner after the owner Pat Bowlen passed on a few years back due to illness, and there has been wrangles ever since, of course, between his family and the board which he himself created. So until now they have not sorted out, and I think it's on sale as I speak, if my memory serves me right. And already and Antonio Brown are in the conversation in the bid for buying that team. And if we all know very well, Denver Broncos is one of the most valuable NFL franchises, I believe, in the top half. And but in terms of performances on the field of play, has not been good as of recent years. And maybe having a black owner in the NFL will be what being discussed. And congrats to him for that endeavor, and hopefully if he has enough cash to be able to purchase this team, then I think the NFL owners who are majority white are going to somehow give way for the minorities to be able to become a part of the table, or to become a part of the board, because all NFL owners have a board in the conversation to do with the league. So that's how it's going down for him in terms of the latest news on Donda Sports. Now, Donda Sports president is of course Antonio Brown. Now, if you're all aware of Antonio Brown, there was a controversy which he created for himself. As for those of you who are NFL fans, you all know what he did during one of the final games for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, whereby he removed his attire, his uniform, threw it to the fans, especially the helmet. He threw it to the fans, and he just walked off the pitch, going all the way to the locker room. Now, that has prompted the team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to terminate his contract, and at the same time head coach Bruce Arians really speaking negative about him. And you all know, ever since then, he released a rap song dissing a number of people concerning his conduct, and right now he's good friends with DA, and even attended a Super Bowl which happened last Sunday, for those of you who are not aware of what went down on that day. So Kanye West paid a seat for him, which was a VIP seat, to be able to represent Donda Sports, and that's how he's leading on that front. So congratulations to Kanye West. And by the way, it's not only him and Antonio Brown, but also with Justin LaBoy. So that's a bit background of Donda Sports and everything to do with Donda. Of course, Donda is named after Kanye West's mother, who passed on more than a decade ago, and her mother was a former was a professor at Chicago State University, where his son dropped out. So that's a bit of what is happening at Donda Sports. It's new, it's upcoming. For those of you who are wondering which is upcoming, that is the one, and hopefully it's going to grow to be able to see its full potential, either to also have a sports agency, either to own sports teams, either to have a sports entertainment company. I mean, who knows where the future lies for this empire called Donda Sports and Donda as a company. So that's a bit of what's happening in Donda Sports. Now for ROC Nation Sports, wow, this is a whole big empire on its own, but it's a division under ROC Nation. Now ROC Nation Sports was created in 2013 after Jay-Z sold his minority stake in Brooklyn Nets to be able to start that division. Now, just a bit of background into how Jay-Z got into where it is right now is he has a rich history of his love for sports, and just to give you more background of it, this is according to according to a news source where it says that Jay-Z used to own less than 1% of Brooklyn Nets. Now, how did he start loving sports? You all know very well. He bought the then New Jersey Nets in 2004 on a minority stake. I believe it's $1 million according to what it's been stated, and he has been that way for almost a decade. Only later in 2013 to be able to sell it to Jason Kidd, who was then a player, I believe, at New York Knicks when he was about to retire. And Jay-Z, can you imagine the numbers if you were to look at it? When he bought the minority stake in early 2004, $1 million is what he put on the table, and that qualified him to own a 15th of 1% of the team. Now I'm reading that on cheatsheet.com, so that is a disclaimer. It's not mine, it's the cheat sheets source. So according to the article, it said that he owned more when it came to the Nets Arena, which is the Barclays Center. That was when they moved there in 2012, which of course he himself announced it. He announced the relocation in 2012. Now by then, according to the statement, says that will give him a 1/5 of 1% in that building, which is worth more than $1 billion. So Forbes estimated that Jay-Z's piece of the Nets was worth $350,000, while his piece of Barclays Center, which was many concerts and other major events, was worth $2 million. So even if you add them together, it's basically less than it's less than 1%. And him and his wife Beyonce were a frequent courtside staple at Nets games. Even if he didn't own much of the team, his ownership provided him an opportunity to be a part of his home squad. So of course, maybe for those of you who love seeing Jay-Z being a part of the NBA games, I'm sure most of the games that he attends is either to do with the Brooklyn Nets, or is either to do with Brooklyn Nets playing against a LeBron side team. Of course, LeBron being one of his long-term friends and what have you. So he really loves basketball and everything to do with sports. That's why he created ROC Nation Sports. He sold his minority stake in Brooklyn Nets to be able to start Rock Nation Sports. Now, why did he sell the stake in Brooklyn Nets? Now, according to cheat sheet, they say that Jay-Z tried to strengthen his foothold in the sports world. They say that consulting the most successful American sports league and owning a piece of an NBA team was a good way to do that. But there was another way he wanted to become an impact player, and that is to be a sports agent. Now that is why he created Rock Nation Sports, by selling the minority stake in Brooklyn Nets. That's not to say Jay himself is an agent, but his company Rock Nation represents athletes. This represented a conflict of interest, leading to Jay selling his piece of the Nets. Now, when he created Rock Nation Sports in 2013, his first client was the baseball player Robinson Cano. Now, they helped him negotiate a hefty contract with Seattle Mariners. So, it was no doubt a tough decision for Jay, but he's likely been able to help more athletes than he did as a figurehead of a co-owner. So, that's how he created Rock Nation Sports. Reason being that he sold his minority stake in Brooklyn Nets to start the sports management empire, and until today he's still doing what he's doing. Right now, currently, Rock Nation Sports handles 133 contracts. 133 clients contracts. Now, a brief background of that empire. Of course, this empire runs down from baseball to basketball to cricket to the American football to, of course, soccer to netball, rugby, esports, boxing, and lastly, even college sports. I mean, through the NIL. Now, NIL means name, image, and likeness, meaning student athletes in college earn it through endorsement deals, so long as their colleges don't get anything from it. So that's why it's going down for Rock Nation Sports. Like I said, once again, 133 clients are all under Rock Nation. And if you want me to give you people, a few names who are under Rock Nation Sports. Now you have people like Kevin De Bruyne, you have people like LaMelo Ball, you have people like Rudy Gay, you have people like even the ladies like Arela Guirantes, who plays in the WNBA for LA Sparks. You have Ellie Roebuck. Not long ago, she was signed to Rock Nation Sports. She's a goalkeeper for Manchester City Women. You have Skylar Dickens-Smith, another WNBA player, this time for Phoenix Mercury. You have Dakota Watterson, who is a teenager who plays soccer, and what have you. So those are your famous clients who are under Rock Nation Sports. Now, I'm also going to bring in more names, but this time focusing on clients of African origin. Now, before I do that, let me give you more numbers on what Rock Nation Sports are all about. Now, of course, their contract value in total is worth more than $1 billion. That is from Forbes.com. Now, I also looked at their numbers, and I also did my own calculation. As I wrote it down and said the average contract years under its management is 3 years. Can you imagine? Around 3 years, 2 to 3 years. So for each and every client that is under Rock Nation Sports, their contract runs for 2 to 3 years, but with hefty amounts. So long as the company is healthy financially, then they can afford to keep these clients happy and be able to stay longer. Now, let's go into the clients of African origin who are under Rock Nation Sports. Now, according to what I've done in the research, out of the 133 clients, 21 of them are of African origin. 21 of them. Now, that represents, I believe, more than 10% if you were to do the calculations. So it's really not bad. I mean, more than 10%. I mean, that shows that Jay-Z loves Africa, and I'll tell you more about why Jay-Z has that good relationship with Africa, especially South Africa as a country. It basically shows that Rock Nation Sports wants to dwell more in South Africa. Maybe if you was to give a suggestion, you should launch Rock Nation Africa, to be able to put in sports, to put in entertainment, just like the way you're doing it in in the USA, so that you have this next generation of African creatives to be able to come and do some good to the brand and be able to grow your empire and expand your portfolio. So 21 athletes of African origin are part of ROC Nation Sports now. Begin with, you have Al Farouk Aminu, who is an NBA player currently playing for the San Antonio Spurs. Of course, is of Nigerian origin. That is of your first one. And then the second of all is Afelele Faasi, who is a rugby player, 24 years old, of course born in South Africa, plays for the Chelsea Sharks. Of course, joining that roster is Aylan Benyahia. That's a soccer player who plays for Olympic Marseille youth team. He's basically a teenager who is between 16 and 17 years old, according to the ROC Nation Sports website. Then next person you have is Aziz Ojulari, who's an NFL player. Of course, he's of Nigerian origin. Before I go further, for Aylan Benyahia, his pronunciation at times is a bit tricky. I believe he's of North African origin. Then for Aziz Ojulari, is of Nigerian origin. He's 21 years old currently. He's going to turn 22 this year, 2022, and he plays for the New York Giants. Then another person on the list is his young brother called BJ Ojulari, who is right now playing in college football, playing for the LSU Tigers. Now, LSU Tigers basically are the sports teams representing the Louisiana State University, and he's currently playing college football for that same college sports team. Then you go to Bongiwe Msomi, who is the only female athlete of African origin to join ROC Nation Sports. She plays netball, and her team that she represents is Hammersdale Sundowns, and she's 33 years old as of right now. Another one joining the roster is Jesseline Kolbe, who is a rugby player playing for Stade Toulousain. This is a rugby team in France. Of course, the person is from South Africa and is 28 years old currently. Another person joining the roster is Jordan Lukaku, who's a soccer player playing for Lazio. And then another one joining the roster is Julian Okwara, who's an NFL player of Nigerian origin. For Jordan Lukaku, by the way, he's Belgian but he's of Congolese origin, and he's the younger brother he's someone related to Romelu Lukaku, who I'll mention later on in this episode. Of course, Julian Okwara is of course the brother to Romeo, who of course I'll also mention his name later on in the episode. He plays for the Detroit Lions. He's an NFL player. He's of Nigerian origin. Another person joining the roster is Lungi Gidi, who is a cricket player, plays for the Chennai Super Kings, which of course in the Indian Super League, which is the biggest cricket league in the world, and is of course from South Africa. He's 25 years old currently. Another joining the roster is Maro Itoje, who is a rugby player playing for the Saracens, who is of Nigerian origin but currently playing for the England rugby team. Then you have Noam Abdelawi, who is a soccer player who plays for Saint Etienne, the French Liga club, and is a teenager, 17 years old currently. He's either playing in the senior team or in the youth team. And then another one joining the ranks is Precious Achua, who is of Nigerian origin. He plays for the Toronto Raptors. He's 22 years old currently. And speaking of him, he's already an all-star who is going to represent in the NBA Rising Stars activities, which is on Friday. So Friday and Saturday, if I'm not wrong. So congratulations for him for being a part of the All-Star weekend for the Toronto Raptors. Then you have Romelu Lukaku, soccer player for Chelsea, who is of course related with Jordan. And and just the other day, Chelsea won the FIFA Club World Cup in Abu Dhabi, and congratulations to him for scoring those 2 goals during that whole tournament, which is of course 2 games for Chelsea, which they played from the semis all the way to the final. And then you have Romeo Okwara, who is of course the brother to Julian. He's also an NFL player, and they're also teammates at the Detroit Lions, and he's 26 years old currently. So he's basically my age mate, so to speak. Then you have Samuel Chukwueze, who's of Nigerian origin. He plays for Villarreal Football Club, which is the La Liga club in Spain. So Just the other day he played in AFCON for Nigeria, but they didn't have an impressive outing. So he's right now playing for Villarreal Football Club. Then you have Subu Nkosi, who's a rugby player for South Africa and is the teammate of Afelele Faasi, and he plays for the Chelsea Sharks and he's 25 years old currently. Another person joining the roster is Sia Kolisi, the captain of the Springboks of South Africa. He's also the teammate of Sibu Ngozi and Afelele Faasi for the Chelsea Sharks, and he's 30 years old currently. So of course, him being the first ever black captain to win the Rugby World Cup for South Africa, so congrats to him. And the last time the Springboks won the Rugby World Cup was during the Mandela days, and what a journey they had endured to be able to be where they are on top of the rugby world. And then you have Temba Bavuma, who's a cricket player currently playing for the Imperial Lions. I believe this is the local cricket club in South Africa, and is 31 years old. And then another one on the roster is Tendi Mtawarira, who's a rugby player from South Africa. He was last seen for Old Glory DC, which is a rugby club in the USA, which he has not played ever since he joined that team in 2020, and is currently 36 years old as I speak now. And then last but not least, you have Xavier Amaechi, who is a footballer of Nigerian origin, footballer meaning soccer, and is currently playing for Hamburg SV, which is the second division German football club, called the second Bundesliga in English terms. But yeah, that is the roster of athletes of African origin who are under ROC Nation Sports, and Jay-Z and his team have done a pretty good job in diversifying talent, not just in the US but also across the world. Now, the latest news, remember just the other day, Jay-Z attended the Super Bowl with his wife Beyonce and their children. And did you know that ROC Nation has a deal with the NFL to develop entertainment for the league, which includes the Super Bowl halftime shows? No wonder he's appearing at every Super Bowl ever since that deal ever happened. And I even have a video clip of the day ROC Nation struck the partnership with the NFL. And according to how the interview went down, which of course was with Roger Goodell, I mean, it was really interactive, really informative, and at the same time really impacting, because it's really touched down to the minorities and all those who have never had the chance of really showcasing their talents through entertainment for the NFL. Because I can remember very well during that time when they struck the deal, fighting against police brutality for the black people in America after the death of George Floyd, and it was really a hotbed for discussion at that time. And you can remember the protests in the NFL was also being a discussion like on a daily basis, and they didn't know as a league how to deal with it. And one of the ways they dealt with is Jay-Z partnering the NFL, and Roger Goodell was also in that conversation. And I even have the interview on my phone, which I can't show it because of time, but that's how it went down. Now, according to Cheat Sheet, it says that the goal of the deal is to increase the diversity of the acts associated with the Super Bowl halftime show. Additionally, the company will work with the league on their social justice activities, including in their vaguely defined, in quotes, change initiative. And then the last statement from that article, which I'm going to pick it up, and says, if the move has drawn criticisms in some circles, but either way, Jay-Z's involvement with the NFL only shows how influential he's become, both with the American public and its elite. So maybe a conclusion, I think my dream will be maybe to visit ROC Nation in New York City, have a conversation with him, Jay-Z, one-on-one, and learn from him on how he grew his sports empire, and seeing how big his sports clientele are, and how he's able to handle diverse sports talent from all across the world, and get really to know him personally, because it is through that empire that I'm now following ROC Nation Sports on all social media platforms, and really congratulate all the athletes for their endeavor so far under ROC Nation Sports. So That's it for the episode. Thank you everybody watching me or listening to me from wherever you are around the world. Today was basically about Donda Sports and ROC Nation Sports. So if you like that content, you know what to do. If you are watching this video right now on YouTube, make sure you click the subscribe button, click the bell button so that you get notified on what's coming up next. I'll put down the description of the links where you can get more of this through the social media and the podcast platforms. And for those of you like listening to it, also the podcast platforms I'll display on the YouTube channel, be able to listen to it time and time again. I'll also download it to be able to discuss with your loved ones. But otherwise, thank you for your company. Until the next episode, be blessed in whatever you do throughout the day. Until the next episode, it's goodbye.